Well, today the topic is about two important things that we normally use, two words, civilization and culture. And when we speak about culture, we think of something good. And also true. But that is not what culture is. This is very important to understand. Animals have a habit of living together. Now, if you go and see cattle living together, you are in a whole clique, they are all together because they live together for protection. If you begin to live alone, you can be attacked easily. But if you live in a whole collection, a batch, then it's not easy for what you call predators or other animals to attack. In the same way, human beings have been living together. Human beings are also a kind of animal, but of a slightly different nature, but they have also been living together. And when they begin to live together, even marriages are only within that group. And when you are within that group, say a Chinese person will like to marry Chinese people, or an Indian person might want to marry an Indian person, or a European person might want to marry a European person. It's all a matter of culture. We begin to think of our culture better than other cultures. Now in India, you get even within the culture there is a caste system. And they marry only within that caste. But it is not only about things like marriage. Even the idea of good and bad is what is accepted in that particular culture. Now, when I was born and bred in Sri Lanka, and when I was growing, now gradually these cultures are also changing, but at that time, when I was young, if a girl and boy walked on the road holding hands, that would be seen as bad behavior according to that culture. And if a girl and a boy was talking to each other alone, that was also seen as bad behavior. So when I went to United States, I saw a girl and a boy not only holding hands, but embracing each other, kissing, or things like that. And that was not accepted as bad at all. There was nothing wrong with that. A boy will go into a house and want to take a girl, young girl, out for dating. And that is quite acceptable, and the parents will allow the girl to go with that boy out. Now that sort of thing was not possible in Sri Lanka at that time. You see, that was not allowed. Not only that, the boy will be chased away by the father. You see, what is good and bad, right and wrong, is different in different cultures. Now, in every culture you will find that people are speaking the same language. Even if it is Chinese, you will find different areas. Even the Chinese language is different. You see, like that. Even in India, the languages are different in different areas. So, it's like that. So, it's not only language, even the food that is eaten. And even if you eat the same food, it is cooked in a similar way. And that way of cooking the food is also different in different cultures, even if it is the same thing. And the clothes that they wear, that is also different in different cultures. In the same way, everyone practices religion, but in a particular culture, the religion is practiced in a different way. And also, even the beliefs based on the beliefs on which the religion is based, or the practice is based, that is also different. Sometimes even within the culture there are different religions coming up. That is, religions, practices from other cultures creep into another culture, and you find it there. Like, for example, in this country you have Buddhism. Some people practicing Buddhism, some Christians, some Islamic, and things like that. Some Hindu. So you have really these are not different religions. That is the important thing to understand. These are different cultural forms of religion. Religion is just one thing. Just as taking food is one thing, but the kind of food or the way it is cooked, way it is prepared, all different. But everyone eats food. So it is a thing like that. Religion is also a thing like that. Only if you ask, why do you practice religion? One person might say, well, God has given down rules, and so I am following the rules of God. Or another person might say, the Buddha has taught that there is no God to be controlling the world, but according to the karma, you will be punished or rewarded, or something like that people might say. So these are different ways of saying the same thing. You should be good, you should avoid bad. That is the main thing there. But the reasons, if you ask, they are different. So the way they dress also different. So many things, but does it mean that what that culture says is correct? Does it mean that everything that particular culture says is true? That is the problem. So we are talking about what is good and true, but it is not necessarily true or false, or good or bad. So when we speak about culture, we are not really talking about truth or really talking about what is good. This is what is accepted in that particular culture. So even the dress is a thing like that. Now if in our country, in Sri Lanka, those days girls were dressed in a kind of cloth. And if a girl wears a gown or something, that girl will be ridiculed. You see, that is the dress. Now today, of course, these Western dresses are getting into the Eastern cultures, but those days, if a person wears a Western dress, that person is ridiculed. So this is the way of cultures. So culture doesn't necessarily mean truth. This is the important thing to understand. It doesn't necessarily mean good. That's the important thing to understand. So we don't have to stick to our culture. If we are so much attached to our culture, it doesn't matter. But the thing is, we should not think that that is the supreme thing. Because today, the world, there is a lot of communication between one culture and another culture. And cultures have become friends. But in ancient times, you see a person of another culture, you take the gun or some thing to getting ready to fight. You see? But today, as people become civilized, this is the meaning of civilization. To be civilized is something completely different from culture. As you become civilized, we become more friendly. We unite. Culture separates people. Civilization unites people and progresses. Civilization is really a measure of progress. As we become civilized, we are progressing. But culture means separation. So it is more important to be civilized than to be cultured. This is the important thing to understand. Now in the West, people are gradually uniting. Now we speak of the United Kingdom. That means the three kingdoms united. England, Ireland, Scotland, three nations united. So there is peace and happiness once you have united. That is becoming civilized. Then we have what is called the United States. Otherwise, those days they had a lot of wars inside United States. But now, after the Union, all the wars disappeared. So being united was being civilized. And what happened in Europe, now the countries are trying to unite, the European countries. And that means at least they have taken the first step, which is to get money. The money became one kind of money. What do you call that? Huh? Euro. Euro. Yeah. So like that. So we have mainly in the western part of the world, people are now uniting more and more. What is happening in the East? We are too much bound to the culture and we are separating. And we are fighting wars. Now India is separating into the Hindus and the Muslims are separated. And even within in India, there are caste differences coming up. And Sri Lanka, they have been fighting because they have been separating. But all that is also due to cultural differences. It's nothing but cultural differences and mainly separated by the language. 2 languages. So you see, the more we get attached to cultures, we begin to become separated, and that means we become uncivilized. So see, civilization and culture are 2 different things. We have to understand this. And we should go after civilization and not so much after culture. We can, if we are so much interested, we can begin to preserve our culture. It doesn't matter. But in preserving the culture, we should begin to mix it with civilization. We should civilize. We should be civilized. And the important thing is, when it comes to Buddhism, there are people who speak about Buddhism as Buddhist culture. Buddhism is not a thing that encourages culture. It's very important to understand that. You see, in India, some people say Buddhism arose from Hinduism. That is nonsense. Buddhism never arose from Hinduism. The Buddha broke away from Hinduism. Buddha was a person who broke away from all cultures and encouraged people to break away from cultures and begin to think for yourself. Instead of just thinking according to that particular culture, you begin to think for yourself and understand the realities of life. It is like science. Science is trying to understand the realities of life. And that is how science progressed. Science is not a culture. Now some people say the modern scientific medicine, they say Western medicine. That is incorrect. It has nothing to do with Western. Science can be Eastern also. So it is different from our Chinese medicine. So that is Chinese medicine, that is Western medicine. That is all wrong. So the Indian people say, oh, this is Ayurvedic medicine and that is Western medicine. That is also all wrong. You should say, this is scientific medicine, this is unscientific medicine. Scientific medicine has nothing to do with cultures. Science has nothing to do with culture. In ancient times, in every country, there was a kind of medicine. It's not only the Chinese, it's not only the Indian things like Ayurveda, or even in England there were local medicines. And science began after that. When science began, everything was tested scientifically. And it was not accepted simply because it was our English medicine or British medicine or something like that. They didn't think like that. So it is very important to understand the importance of culture, the importance of not getting too much involved in culture, and the importance of becoming civilized. Becoming civilized is becoming more and more progressive. This is why even Karl Marx was using the word progressive, because progressive means advancing, growing, becoming more mature. And but he thought Marxism was the way to advance, but that is his own idea. But the important thing is to understand that we should be becoming more and more civilized, and with civilization comes peace, and there will be world peace only if we are able to become civilized. And in becoming civilized, we have to get away from cultures. So that is very important. Now when we relate this to Buddhism, the practice of Buddhism really is the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path. And the Noble Eightfold Path, which I translate in a different way because it brings better meaning, the meaning becomes clearer. Because the Pali words have been translated by some authors from a long time ago, maybe somewhere beginning of the 19th century or 20th century. And they translated according to how they understood. So you can't translate something without first understanding. You have to translate not words, but sentences. If you begin to translate words, you will never get the meaning out. Instead of translating words, we should translate sentences. First understand the sentence, what does the sentence say? Now even if we take a word like understand, what is understand? Understand, if you stand under the table, that is understanding. But that is not the meaning of the word understand. You see, it's like that. You have to first understand the meaning of a statement, and then you have to translate it by saying that same or expressing the same meaning using a different language. So, it is very important to understand that the teaching of the Buddha begins with the right understanding. What does that mean? Or right view. Some people translate it as right view or right understanding. But actually I translate that as the harmonious perspective. This is a very important translation because it carries a completely different meaning. Harmonious. The word samma, which in Sanskrit is samyak. In Sanskrit it is samyak. In Pali it is samma. So Pali is a language which is a little easier than the Sanskrit, even to pronounce. And samma, most people just translate with the word right. It is right and wrong, right. But that is not correct. Samma, I went into the Sanskrit dictionary to discover the true meaning of that word, samyak. And that means harmony. Samma or samyak means harmony. Why is the Buddha talking about harmony? This is a very important thing. All disharmony is created by views. Now, if a husband and wife begins to fight and quarrel, why does that happen? Because the husband has one view, the wife has another view. It is the view or the belief or the idea that is quarreling. Most of the things that we do are based on ideas that we hold in our mind. Samma. So the harmonious, and when I say perspective, that is also important. What is a perspective? Now, if I take a photograph with a camera, I take a photograph from here, that is one perspective. If I go there and take a photograph, that is another perspective. If I go behind and take a photograph, that is another perspective. So perspective is simply how you see it. It is not so much what you see, it is how you see. So the perspective means you are talking about how you see things. Or you can say how you see life, how you see yourself, how you see other people, how you see the world. Those are just photographs, like photographs. So you can see something in a certain way where you will start getting into fighting and quarreling. Or you can see something in another way which brings about peace and happiness. So this is the perspective which brings harmony, the harmonious perspective. That is the meaning of Samma Ditti. Sammaditthi is the harmonious perspective which brings about harmony. Once there was a man who came to the Buddha. He was of a high caste in India. He was very proud and imagining that he is a great person. He was a fairly old man. He was carrying a walking stick. Maybe the walking stick partly some people carry not because it is necessary. That is also a style to show that it's a great person. So you see, so this person came with the walking stick. The Buddha was sitting under a tree. And this man came and asked the Buddha, "What do you teach? What is your philosophy?" So the Buddha said, "My teaching or my philosophy is that I will not come in conflict with anyone in the world, whether human or non-human, whether gods or devil, or whether an ascetic or a layman, whether man or whether woman. I will not come in conflict with anyone in the world. That is my view. That is my philosophy." Now that is the harmonious perspective. You see, that is the meaning of the harmonious perspective. And if we cling to cultures, again we lose the harmonious perspective. This is why if we become civilized, we begin to acquire a harmonious perspective. Now, in order to explain this further, the Buddha used a good analogy. There was a king who wanted to have some fun. And the king ordered his royal elephant to be brought. So the king those days had the royal elephant like today people have special cars, even for the king and the queen, maybe a special make. And so it's like that. They used elephants as vehicles or horses as vehicles. And so they brought the elephant, the royal elephant, and then he asked some blind people who were born blind, had never seen an elephant before, to be brought. And then he asked these blind people to touch the elephant and describe the elephant. So one man touched the tail and said, "Oh, the elephant is like a broom." Then another man touched the legs and said, "The elephant is like a tree." Another man touched the ear and said, "The elephant is like a fan." Another man touched the trunk and said, "The elephant is like a huge snake," or something like that. So, like that, each person had a different view about the elephant. And not only different view, they even started arguing. "I have seen the elephant with my own hands, I touched the elephant. And I know that it is like this. How can you say the elephant is like a fan? I touched and I found that it is like a tree." So they started fighting and quarreling. And because the king had eyes to see, he saw the real shape of the elephant, and he started laughing. So this was just a humorous incident, I suppose, but the important lesson here was that most people just see only one side and cling to that side and think this is the truth. In a way, it is true, because the part that he touched was like that, but not the whole elephant. So you see, but the Buddha never takes sides like this. To take sides is to be narrow-minded. But to see all sides is to be broad-minded. So the broad-minded person doesn't disagree with anyone in the world. That is the thing. You don't disagree with anyone. There was an interesting book written by an American man called Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So he said one lesson is, never tell a person he is wrong, or he or she. That means never disagree with the person. You see, Buddha never disagreed with anyone. You know, you may have heard this Singalovada Sutra, where there was a young man who never listened to his father's advice, and he was just running about wherever he wanted. He at night also he goes into the streets and begins to gamble and drink and do all kinds of mischief. And the father was now old and sick, and he was about to die. So he was very much worried about this child. What can I do to this boy who is not listening to me properly and also behaving in the wrong way? So what he did was, he thought, at least may the gods protect him. And so on his deathbed, he gave an advice to this man. When I die, there will be no one for you to protect you or any of those things, and to help you. At least every morning when you are without me now, you go and take a bath in the river. And after the bath, you should worship the 6 directions: up, down, north, south, east, west, all these 6 directions. And then at least the gods of the 6 directions will protect you. So usually when at the deathbed some advice is given, people begin to follow this. So this boy was doing that. Every day he goes in the morning to the river and bathes in the river. And they also believe that if you bathe in the river, your soul will be purified. And so, especially in the Ganges river, you are purified by bathing. But even if, I don't know whether it was the Ganges river or some other river, but in any case, he went to bed and he was worshipping the 6 directions. Now the Buddha, he has psychic powers, and every morning the Buddha looks into the world to see whether there is anyone needing his help. And when he finds that there is someone, he will go and help that person, teach the Dhamma. So when he looked early morning, he found that there was this boy who goes to the river and bathes and then worships the 6 directions. So the Buddha went there. What did he do? He didn't say, "You stupid boy, what are you doing bathing in the river and worshipping the 6 directions?" He never said a thing like that. He didn't even say, "You have done something wrong. That is all wrong. That is not the way to do things." He never said that. You know what he said? "Why are you taking a bath in the morning and then worshipping these 6 directions?" He said, "My father, when he was going to die on his deathbed, he gave me this advice, so I thought I should follow that advice because he died and passed away. He wanted to protect me, and that is why I am doing this." "Oh, is that so? That is very good. You worship the 6 directions. But we worship the 6 directions in a different way." That is how he said. He never said you are wrong. We worship the 6 directions in a different way. Then he became interested in knowing that other way. Says the curiosity was aroused. And so he asked, "What is that other way of worshipping the 6 directions?" "Oh, you see, taking the shower is to purify your body. And the way we purify the body is to stop harming life, stop stealing, to stop committing adultery, to stop lying, harsh speech, and all those things. That is how we purify the body. And we purify the mind by giving up lust, hate, delusion, and fears and worries. That is how we purify the mind. And then, what are the 6 directions that you worship? Well, he divided the society into 6 compartments. One was to respect the parents. The other one was to do your duties to your wife and children. And the others was to do your duties to your husbands, if it is a lady. Then if it is to do your duties to your children, to do your duties to your teachers, and do your duties to your religious priests, and to do your duties to even your servants and people like that. And so, in other words, doing your duties to society, other people. And then the other people will come and help you in return. That is how you benefit by worshipping the 6 directions. That is what he pointed out. So, in another way, he was saying that it is useless going after gods that you have never even seen. The only way is to do your duties to other people. Other people are the people who will come and help you. If you live in a good way in society, then the society will help you. This is the special thing that he taught. But he never said you are wrong. But by listening to this, that person began to understand. And he followed the Buddha. You see, this is very important to understand, that the harmonious perspective, that is to see things from a good point of view. And when you begin to see things from a good point of view, you begin to be happy yourself, and you make others happy also at the same time, because you are doing good things. So, what is true? We are not thinking of what is true. We are thinking in terms of what is good. That's the important thing. If we begin to think in terms of what is true, then we begin to get hold of one view and hold that as the truth, and everything else is false. Then you come in conflict with other people. You see, all religions talk about doing good. Be peaceful. Speak to people in a kind way. Act towards people in a kind way. That is what all religions teach. But they begin to talk about truth. The moment they begin to talk about truth, they get hold of a truth. Oh, God created the world, and Jesus is the Son of God. Now, if you begin to believe that, then you go against all those who don't believe in that. Then you begin to quarrel and fight. So all the peacefulness, all the good behavior is lost. So it defeats the purpose of religion. So if religion begins to be dogmatic, that religion is defeating its own purpose. This is the important thing to understand. So religion should not be believing in things. Religion should be doing good. This is why when the Buddha spoke about the harmonious perspective, he was not talking about truth. Now today, even the Four Noble Truths, that is a wrong translation. This is not truth that the Buddha is speaking about. The Buddha is speaking about what is good, not what is true. Now the word that the Buddha uses is satya. What is satya? The Sanskrit form of that word is satya. And most words can be understood by putting it into Sanskrit. Satya. And if you examine the meaning of the part sat, sat means what is good. We say Sat Purusha. Purusha means person. Sat Purusha means good person. Asat Purusha means the bad person. Now we say Sat Dhamma. Dhamma really means a concept or idea. And Sat Dhamma means good Dhamma. Now Satya is what is good. Satya is what is good. So the Pali form is Satya. It is the same thing. So what is good? Not what is true. You know, the modern philosophers, especially if you study Western philosophy, there is a branch of philosophy called epistemology. Epistemology is trying to answer the question, what is truth? What is this thing called truth? That whole branch of philosophy is about that. And there have been various philosophers who have expressed their views. So one man says, truth is what is in our religious books. That is the truth. So whatever is in the Bible or whatever is in the Quran or whatever is in the Hindu, what are these called? The Hindu Upanishads or maybe the Vedas, that is the truth. Or the Buddhist says, what is in the Tripitaka is truth. Now, if you begin to take that as the truth, then all religions should be saying the same thing, no? If all religions are not saying the same thing, then there are many truths. So, are there many truths or there is one truth? This is the problem. You see, so the people began to say, some philosophers said, no, we can't accept what is in these religious books. Whatever is logically thought about and reasoned about